Welcome to the Dare to Begin Small and Mighty podcast, episode number 35. How do you feel about the phrase, the only thing that has a hope of stopping you is you? Does it empower you? Does it scare you? Does it make you think about how you might be stopping yourself? Today, that's what I want to talk about. The only thing that has a hope of stopping you is you and the space between the actions. Let's jump into today's episode. I spent years building my interior design business trying to do all the things. The marketing, the networking, the free content, spending thousands of dollars on training and education, only to see minimal growth. After years of frustration, I finally started to ask, what am I missing? I had the systems in place for powerful growth. I had amazing clients. I had determination, drive, and commitment to spare. And yet, I wasn't seeing the success I desired. What if business is not about the doing? What if building a powerful business requires both powerful systems and something else, something deeper? I'm Amy Van Meel, and I'm on a journey to discover that something else. If you are ready to build a powerful business and do it knowing that your success is inevitable, join me as I share both the powerful systems I know work and my lessons and revelations as I discover that something deeper. Welcome, Changemaker, to the Dare to Begin Small and Mighty podcast. Hey there, Changemakers. Welcome to what is the last week of September of 2019. I don't know where you're at right now. I've heard, since it drove me crazy, I talked about this a few months ago, that like in June, the end of June, beginning of July, I saw posts everywhere of people talking about how the year is half over and oh my gosh, we haven't accomplished what we wanted to and there's so much still to do. And then September comes, and inevitably September is always a time of getting back to school. And even if you aren't going to school or you don't have kids that are going to school, I'm willing to bet that if you're like me a little bit, that September always feels like sort of a fresh start. So here's what I love about September. I love that whether you're in school or not, there's a crispness to the air. There's something about it that makes me want to buy pencils, but it also makes me feel like I'm at the cusp of a new beginning. I often feel like the beginning of September is actually more of an opportunity for a new beginning than January 1st. I don't know if that's because January 1st feels just so heavy, but anyway, that's my thoughts on September. So we are now officially 30 days. We're not 30 days. We're 24 days into our, I'm giving you air quotes here, new year. So I trust that the past 3 weeks has been productive for you, or at the very least that you have been making even tiny forward momentum steps. And I want to talk about today something that really caught my attention. We've been watching a lot of movies here lately, and if you haven't watched it, we watched Dunkirk this weekend. What a wild movie. It's kind of crazy actually how it's put together. It's not bloody or gory like I worried that it would be, but it is a very intense movie. But I recently started watching a Jennifer Lopez movie, and I think it's called Second Act or Second Chance or something like that. I've only just begun it. And the basic premise is that Jennifer Lopez is working as an assistant manager at a retail location. The managerial position is open, and she's been working for this store for 16 years, has more than enough experience and in work, well, let's say work qualifications in terms of being able to do the managerial role, even though she doesn't have any post-secondary education. And as she's getting ready in the morning to head off to work and go meet with, the big boss, the guy who makes a decision, her boyfriend, he's her boyfriend, I think they get engaged later on in the movie, I'm not sure, but her boyfriend says to her as she's walking out the door, the only thing that has a hope of stopping you is you. Now, I am someone who can cry at the drop of a hat. So we were watching movies all weekend, and God bless my guy. He knows that that's just me. That I'm emotional in that way, and that I really get into the plot, and I really identify with the characters. But I heard this and I stopped, and I was just instant tears in my eyes, and I had to go back and listen to this character say that again. The only thing that has a hope of stopping you is you. And so here's what I want to talk about today is this idea that the truth is we are the only thing that ever gets in our way. And on the one hand, that's really exciting. It does require you to take a level of responsibility to realize that you are the one who's in charge. And if things aren't going the way that you want them to, you can't be putting the blame and the responsibility on somebody else. We can say, the economy's bad, or my boss is really terrible, or my job they don't get it, or nobody values my expertise. We could always attempt to place that responsibility on somebody else. But at the end of the day, what I've really come to see that small, what seems like a small act, but when we do it over and over and over again, what we're really doing is we're giving our power away. We're basically saying that we're not in charge of our life. Somebody else is in charge of it for us. And if only they would make better decisions, then our life could be better. But if you think about it, now I would be curious to turn this on its head and ask you, provided you don't have children, because this doesn't count if you have children. But if you look at your other adults in your life, whether it's colleagues at work, whether it's clients in your business, whether it's, the person that is checking out your groceries at Safeway, let me ask you, are you responsible for how their life is coming together? Do you look at your friends or neighbors or colleagues and do you feel that it is your responsibility to make their life the best that it could be for them? If you don't feel there's a responsibility, that you have a responsibility to that other person to make their life better, then let me ask you, why do you think that somebody else should feel that responsibility to you? And it's crazy when we start to think about it that way, that we start to think, instead of taking the idea of like, "Ugh, I just wish things would start happening my way, but nothing ever happens in my favor," which is totally taking that responsibility and shifting it off to somebody else. That line in and of itself is just, there's some, random force out there that has control over my life and I have no control over it, but geez, I just wish it would actually do what I wanted to. But if you were to take it and you were to reverse it and you were to say, okay, it's my responsibility to make sure that the tree outside my house grows. It's my responsibility to make sure that the snow falls like it's supposed to. It's my responsibility to make sure that there's enough rain for the fields to grow or the flowers to bloom. That's crazy, right? It's crazy for us to think that it's our responsibility to make sure those things happen. And yet, when we do this, when we say something like, I just wish that things would align in my favor, what we're saying is that we believe it's somebody else's, some out there essence, their responsibility to take care of us, whether it's God or the universe or source or however you look at it, that it's somebody else's responsibility to take care of us. And it isn't. It isn't. At the end of the day, it always ends with you. My life always ends with me. I am the only one who has the power to change it, just like I am the only one that has a hope of stopping me from going where I want to go. Now, every time I hear that, and I've heard something similar to that for years, every time I hear that, it just gets me. It punches me in the gut. And sometimes that saying or that sentence has me feeling really empowered, like, yeah, that's right, I can do this. There's nobody's going to be able to get in my way. Nobody can stop me. Nobody can tell me that I can't have this. Absolutely, I can do this. But then there's the days that are the days that I'm struggling, the days that I feel down, the days that I'm, stuck in the physical pain of menstrual cramps or something, that I hear that and I want to cry because I think, oh my gosh, if I could just get and stay on my side, what amazing things I could do. So I've had some deep revelations this past week. Now, I do trust that I'm hoping that you follow Manifestation Babe on Instagram, if you don't, I would recommend it, or at least follow somebody who is in tune with what's happening on a cosmic level. I also, my coach, you can find her, I believe her Instagram handle is highestself.ca. She often posts about it as well. But last week was really interesting for me. So last week, I've been saying this for a while, that I've been in a deep cycle of personal growth. And what truly 2019 has felt like for me has been this intense, like full on Amy Van Meel renovation. If you could like look at me on a cosmic level right now, it would be like just sort of this framed out structure that is kind of, missing a few pieces and trying to figure out what it's going to look like when it's all grown up. That's kind of what I feel like. This year has been quite intense. But last week in particular, and it's always so funny because I'll feel like crazy stuff going on, and then I'm like, what the hell? Like, there must be something really wrong with me. And I go online and I see posts. I'm, oh, it's not me. It's this whole like cosmic thing going on. So last week there was, I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it was something to do with Saturn being in retrograde or maybe coming out of retrograde. I know Saturn was involved. I don't remember exactly how it is. But essentially what it was is that there was some massive release of revelations in a number of things. And so if you were feeling that last week, then that's what was going on. So for me, I had a number of revelations. And this is so funny. So on, I think it was Tuesday, I was feeling whatever. I felt like I had done some deep work and something was coming up. And then my coach texted me the night I had gone to bed already, so I didn't see it till the following morning. So Wednesday morning I see this, but she texted me the night before saying, you're going to have a big breakthrough tomorrow. It's going to be awesome. Like, I'm so excited for you, blah, 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 blah. So I kind of felt like I was on this trajectory for really opening up some like big inner doors and windows and understanding a bit more about myself. And yet I wasn't necessarily attached to it until I saw this text message that said, you're going to have this big breakthrough. And so, of course, then immediately my mind, despite, my training and what I've learned, it immediately attached expectation to it. And I was taking some free training that Manifestation Babers, Catherine Zinkina, had put on last week, and it was so good. It was so powerful. And I was expecting that this big breakthrough was going to come through from this training. So, imagine how surprised and dismayed I was when I watched the training and was like, that's it. There's nothing, like, there's way less in here than I thought than there was the last 2 days. Like, where's my breakthrough? I'm missing it. And shortly after having that thought pattern, I went, hold on. I've attached expectation onto this. My breakthrough may not come from this. It may be something different, or I may not have one at all. And I sent a message to my coach saying basically the same thing, that here I was attaching expectations to it. And over the next couple of days, she sent me little notes to remind me that, breakthroughs aren't always this big epic thing that we have in our minds. And I want to talk about what I call the movie montage. So, like I said, I just started watching this movie with, what was her name? Anyway, not Jennifer Aniston, but the one with the booty, Jennifer Lopez. I just started watching this movie, so I haven't finished watching it yet, but I'm sure there will come a point at which she'll have some kind of, movie montage where she gets, inspired action and starts doing things. And you've seen it in so many movies where all of a sudden, like, you see the character has had all these challenges and they finally make a decision that this is it. Now they're going to change. And so then it shows you all these clips of them, they're cleaning out the closet, or they're getting their checking account in order, or they dump the guy and they go to the gym and they start eating healthy and they do all these things. And the movie montage is what I'm always expecting somehow in my life, that it's just all of a sudden going to be this like piece together, like all these things are just going to happen and there's going to be this epic music playing in the background and it's going to be amazing and I'm going to come out of it like this totally in charge person. And yet it isn't. And what I realized today is that it's the space between the actions where doubt, fear, and self-sabotage sneak in. So when we look at a sped up version, like in a movie where you see these, these big moments of action, what we don't see is the space between those actions. So I'll have days where I take deep, inspired action and I have amazing results. And then I have days where I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing wrong? And who wants to listen to me? And why would this go anywhere? And I'm never gonna get there. And like it's just and fear and doubt and self-sabotage just keeps creeping in. And then, it takes a bit and I rally and away we go. Then we have another moment of, great action or great inspired action. And so, what I want to talk about is that space between the actions because we know what it is. It feels so good to take action. It feels so good to make the decision and to move forward, right? When you're like, I am joining the gym today, come hell or high water. I don't fucking care anymore. I'm going to get it done. Then you go to the gym and you get in there, you sign up, you feel so amazing. You probably run, an hour on the treadmill or whatever. And you're like, fucking nailing it. This is going to be awesome. And then a couple days goes by and your excitement wanes. And then a week goes by and you're like, oh, I haven't been in the gym in a couple days. Oh, I'll go tomorrow. Or, man, I'm just so tired. I wish that I could get to the gym, but I have no time or what have you. It's the space between those moments that I want to address today. So, like I said at the beginning, the only thing that has the hope of stopping you is you. Now, here is a deep revelation that I had last week, which kind of shocked the heck out of me in a way. And if you had been a fly on the wall in my kitchen last week, you probably would have thought that I officially lost it. But I had a morning where it was just, it was the simplest thing. I had in my head, I wanted to style my hair a certain way. And then I had made up a story that said I didn't have time to style it that way. I was just going to braid it. Let me tell you, I was having so much trouble braiding my hair. It took me an hour. It still wasn't what I wanted. And at the end, I realized that I would have been much better off if I had just styled my hair the way I wanted to rather than braiding it. So this is the emotion that's going around in my head as I go into my kitchen to have breakfast. It's now an hour later than I anticipated, which made me already feel like I was behind on my day. I was feeling super frustrated. And I just started like having this shouting match conversation with myself in the kitchen. And it was through this conversation that I realized something. One of the stories that I heard so often when I was growing up in high school and in my 20s and building my business and I know you've heard it is the story of someone who builds the ladder on the wrong wall. And what I mean by that is someone who spent, 10, 20, 30 years building a career, finally achieving the success that they think they want, only to realize it's not what they wanted at all. And then feeling like they've wasted all of this time, effort, and energy into building this ladder. And so I had this deep fear that I did not want to build my ladder on the wrong wall. But what I realized in my shouting match with myself last week was that I had successfully not built a ladder on the wrong wall by not building a ladder at all. Now that might sound funny to you because I've built a business and I have built this business. The design business is doing all right. And I've talked about this before that, if I could have gotten my beliefs in better alignment way earlier on, that the business would have done much better. But here's what else I realized is that as much as I wanted to build a successful business, in the back of my mind was always this fear that no matter how hard I worked, is always going to be pulling me out of the game of what if this isn't what I'm meant to create? What if this isn't the direction I'm meant to go? What if I shouldn't be successful? What if I get to be successful and it's the wrong thing? What if I work so hard on building this business and I lose my guy or I lose my friends or I lose whatever? And so in ensuring that I didn't create a ladder on the wrong wall, I never built a ladder at all. Well, let me tell you, when I realized that last week, I'm like, well, shit. All right, then there's no reason for me to be frustrated or angry about where I'm at right now because I built it to be that way. And if I want something different, then maybe it's just time that I actually start claiming a direction. And now here's a beautiful thing. I love how this works, that every time I have, and I've talked about this before, every time I have this revelation, that there's things that come in to align with it, and they basically reiterate the message. And through audiobooks I was listening to this weekend, through some podcasts I was listening to, literally in like some of the movies that we were watching this weekend, the same message that came through over and over and over again is that it's important just to try and to not be paying attention to what other people are saying. And by what other people are saying, I mean this. I have a really good friend of mine who is just a wonderful, wonderful person and has been instrumental in helping me get myself moving again after being in a really dark period for quite a while in my life. And she believed in me at a time that I just couldn't see my way forward and really helped me go again. But here's what was interesting to me that I just realized. As I was getting going, I was practicing setting some goals, setting some targets for myself. And setting I had these dreams of things that I wanted to do. Like one of the things, one of my call it vision board goals is to when the first year that I make $250,000 revenue in my business, to take my guy and I on a first class flight on KLM to the Netherlands to visit my family. And I mentioned this to my friend, and I remember her saying, "That's not big enough. You need to pick something bigger. You need to think bigger. Stop thinking so small." And there was something in me that said, well, I said to her, this isn't the only goal I'm going after, but this is the first one that I have some clarity around, that this is, call it a reward that I'm working towards. But what I began to realize this weekend was how often over the years, and not just with this friend and not just with a business coach I had years ago, but over and over and over again, where I was unwittingly allowing someone else to, I was giving my power away to somebody else. I would set what I thought was a trajectory, and then someone would come in and say, "No, you need to think bigger. No, you need to think something different. No, you need to be more clear." And so, what I would do is I would abandon ship and I'd be like, "Okay, well, obviously, then I need to come up with something else." So, I can only imagine that the universe is doing this like cosmic throwing its hands in the air, going, "Oh my God, if you could just pick a fucking direction, then we could get there. That would be great." But again, I was so afraid that I was building a ladder on the wrong wall that I wasn't sticking to any of it. And so the message that kept coming through this weekend was you need to set some goals for yourself, and to hell with everybody else around you. Just go for them and don't listen to them unless they have achieved the success you already want to have, in which case then you could take their counsel. But you don't have to take it as like the holy word. Take it as input. Listen to it in the sense of allow it to percolate, allow it, ruminate on it, sort of chew on it, and use it if you think it'll be beneficial, but don't let that be the end all and be all of your life. Because then when you do that, you're giving your responsibility away to somebody else. And that's not what we're here for, right? The only thing that has a hope of stopping you is you. And so it's important that we recognize that. The other thing that I realized is the idea of delaying success with a made-up story. And here's what I mean by that. So, a great example is when we are struggling financially and we are about to either book a new job or take on a job where we're actually working for someone else, or there's a contract that's about to be getting paid out, and we delay our success or delay our joy until such thing happens. So what I realized, and it's not just like, it can't be, it can be more than just the financial. It could be things like, I'm too tired today, I'll do that tomorrow, where you're delaying your action. Or I just don't feel so good right now, I'll do this, in a week. Or I don't know what I should be doing next, so I'm just going to wait until I receive inspired action. Those are all ways that we're delaying success with a made up story. And again, I say to you that the only thing that has a hope of stopping you is you. And when you create stories like this, and my hand is up, I do it too. When we create stories like this, what we're doing is we're taking ourselves out of the game. But here's the thing. At the moment, it doesn't feel like a big thing, right? It doesn't feel like we're creating this epic decision to take ourselves out of the game. It just feels like at that moment, I'm really sore. I have incredible pain through my body from cramps, or I have a massive headache, or I didn't sleep well last night and I'm really tired, or, there isn't enough money in my bank account. And so I'm just waiting for that to come in, whatever it is. At the moment, it seems incredibly logical and it doesn't seem like a story. You're just saying, well, this is what's happening right now. This is how I feel. And so that's just the way it is. But what we're doing is that we are weaving a story around this one moment of reality. that now what we're doing is we're taking this moment of, feeling this pain or feeling this tiredness or feeling this lack of financial abundance, and we're weaving it into something bigger that is delaying out our success. And it's so sneaky. And this is what I talk about, the space between the actions. It's not just doubt and fear that roll in, self-sabotage rolls in as well. And self-sabotage looks like these moments where we make up these stories. And they're so sneaky and they're so quiet, and because they're so closely tied with what is actually happening in our reality at the moment, they're incredibly difficult to spot. So I have no advice for you in terms of how to actually spot them other than to just pay attention and ask yourself, is this story actually benefiting me or not? And it might take a while. I'm guessing it's probably going to take you a while to figure it out. It's going to take some time for you to be able to go, oh shit, that was a story. Damn it. And now I've totally let that go. Okay. I need to pay more attention to this. And rather than think about it as like, I need to pay more attention to this, this is what I've been practicing. And give it a try. I don't know. I can't guarantee it's success because it's something I'm still practicing. But the moment that I realize that I've been doing it, the moment that I realize that there's, let's say, a story that I've been selling myself, this is what I've been practicing. I will actually say this story out loud. Amy, right now, you are telling yourself the story that you are in a lot of pain and feeling very little energy. And so you're going to wait until tomorrow or next week to take this action. So I actually say the story out loud because I want to hear it. I want to not just like feel my voice vibrate as I say the words, but actually hear it and allow my brain to go, oh, okay, here's a flag. This is a story. And then I practice what I talked about in episode one or two ago, where I talk about the negative beliefs and moving through the negative beliefs. And if I'm telling myself the story, well, I also get to choose what stories that I tell myself. So while my reality may be, yes, I am feeling a lot of physical pain at the moment. Yes, I feel less than inspired to take action right now. However, the story that I'm going to tell myself is that I feel these things, but they do not define who I am and the actions that I will take. And so perhaps today I will take this action. And it may not be great, but I would rather take imperfect action than wait until everything's ready and lose a week or 2 weeks or 2 years. Right? That's how that little insidious story gets in there, because it's based on our reality, but what it does is it delays your success, it delays the action that you're going to take. So I would recommend that you keep an eye out for that. The other thing that I would suggest is to align yourself with powerful mentors. Now, I have been learning some beautiful revelations around this. And I want to credit Catherine Zankina of Manifestation Babe with this, because she's the one who actually talked about this in one of her podcast episodes, that a mentor or, building the community around you, and I kind of had this thought already, but she really clarified it, that it doesn't have to be with the people that you are physically seeing all the time. So I've had a lot of doubt and concern around the idea that, the 5 people you spend the most amount of time with, you will be essentially the sum of those 5 people. And so when I think about the 5 people that I spend the most time with in my physical reality, like people that I actually am around in the same room, I'm like, oh, okay, that's maybe not the best reality that I want to create. However, that said, I only see that person like once every few months. Right. And so then I'm like, okay, well, then how much influence could that have? Where on the other hand, I spend hours listening to, say, James Wedmore on his podcast, or Catherine Zankina on her podcast and in her training, or, different people where I'm paying close attention to what they're talking about and doing and what they're creating in their lives. And I know that my spending time with them, learning at the feet of the masters, is influencing my life. And so Catherine Zankina actually talked about it, that She talked about the importance of getting mentors, which I've talked about before, but she also suggested that it doesn't have to be someone that you're physically spending time with, where you're in the same room with this person. Your mentor or this person that inspires you could literally be that person on the podcast. It could literally be James Wedmore, who doesn't know who I am from a hole in the wall, and that's okay. It could be Catherine Zankina, again, doesn't know me from Adam, but that's okay. It could be for you. Let me just have a moment here. It could be you spending time with me. I don't know. But the point that I want to make is that I think it's important that we all align ourselves with powerful mentors. And what I look for, and you'll need to decide what you want to look for in a mentor. What I look for is someone who's already achieved or on the way to achieving what I desire. So James Wedmore and Catherine Zankina, perfect examples for my business intentions. They have both built multi-million-dollar businesses. They have, from what I can see, I don't know them personally, but from what I can see and hear, a fairly good balance of time freedom and business freedom, and they deliver incredible impact in the world. And so those three things are super important to me. And so I pay close attention to the things that they say and what they do. So those are things that I want to look for in a mentor. I used to look at, I can't think of any names at the moment right now, but I used to be, just sort of think of this successful person. They just have this amazing business. But what I would see missing, and this is where the disconnect always was for me, is that they didn't have, time freedom. They were working all the time. Or maybe they traveled a lot, but like they were literally traveling all the time and there didn't seem to be any joy in it. Or they had seen the success that they wanted, but their way of expressing that success wasn't in alignment with me. So what I love about people like Catherine Zankina and Amy Porterfield and James Wedmore is that they are very successful. Nobody can deny that. They're very successful, but they're never out there flaunting it. They're never standing in front of some Lamborghini or a McLaren and saying, look how amazing I am that I created this and you could have this too. They're not flashing their fancy Rolex or their $10,000 handbag or their $400 manicure and saying, look, I just paid so much for this and you could too if you just built this business. And so what I've been noticing is that the people that I've been aligning myself with have been people who are achieving the success that I want, the success that I desire, but doing it also in a way that feels real and authentic to me, and in a way that I would like to emulate when I get there, that I hope and I trust that when I get to that point, I will be similar to that it's not about hiding the money that I have, but it's also not about flaunting it out and rubbing it in the face of others, right? Sort of that sleazy snake oil salesman. The other thing that I want to just talk about when I talk about the only thing that has a hope of stopping you is you is the idea of investing in your knowledge or increasing your knowledge. And I've talked about so often, recommended that you get a library card and you start reading, whether it's maybe you don't get a library card. If you want to buy books all day. Great. What I love, I've talked about my library card before, the fact that I have a library app that allows me to borrow ebooks. What I love about that process is that I get the book for 21 days. Now, here's what I've noticed. It might be just me, but I'm guaranteeing it's probably not just me. That if I buy a book, the book could sit on my shelf literally for years, never get opened. I might have all the intention in the world of actually reading it, but I don't get to it because there's always something more important in my mind that needs to be done. However, when it comes to my app, because I only get it for 21 days, and most of the books that I've been reading have fairly lengthy hold times. I think the longest one that I've waited for was like 24 or 32 weeks. Like I literally waited for like 6 or 7 months for a book to show up. Now, if I can't finish the book in the 21 weeks, I could put it on hold again, but it's probably another, 32 weeks before I get it again. And so because the time frame that I have it is short, it actually inspires me and encourages me to get my ass into it and read the book while I have it. So the amount of information that I've been taking in has been much greater because I have there's a bit of a pressure behind needing to make sure that I actually finish this book on time so I can return it. But here's where I struggled was In the mornings, I would read in the mornings when I had breakfast. And if I only have one book or maybe two books in my reader, then that's okay. But the last like 6 or 7 weeks, there's been 4 and 5 books in my reader. And they all only have 21 days. And so I'm like, holy crap, I need to read faster. I need to get through them, more quickly. And how am I going to do that? Because I need time for my business and I need time for spending time with my guy. And, I have all these other things that are going on. And so I've actually taken up where I would read in the mornings, maybe in my office. I grab a cup of coffee and I've been reading through the E-Myth, which is a phenomenal book. If you haven't read it, I recommend it. I'm still working my way through. But here's the thing. I was feeling guilty about reading. Not guilty of like, oh, I should be doing something else, but guilty of like doing the reading during the time that I felt I should be working on my business. Because somehow I had equated in my mind that taking knowledge in, learning at the feet of the masters was somehow not a valuable task, even though there wasn't anything else that was more pressing that needed to be done. Somehow in my brain, I thought if I'm sitting at my computer, even if I'm just like typing out an email, somehow it seems to be of greater value, a higher value task than sitting here reading a book. Now, let me tell you, that's totally fucked up. It doesn't make any sense. When you actually look at it logically, then, and I'm sure you'll get there with me, that you'll go, well, that doesn't make any sense, Amy. You could type an email at any time, but if you only have this book for so long, wouldn't it be worth your time to invest time and read the book and maybe learn something from that book? So I would encourage you to increase your knowledge, but to also look at the time you spend increasing your knowledge as one of high investment. Because the truth is, when you read good quality books, you're going to increase all avenues of your life, whether it's a business book or a personal growth book or self-help book, however you want to look at it. Something that when I did Catherine Zankina's challenge last week, she's talking about her challenge was all about our relationship with money, which had some major revelations for me, which is really cool. And one of the things that she talked about, because I've heard people talk about, you need to improve your relationship with money. I'm like, I don't know how to do that, right? And I try to think about how I improve my relationship with my guy, and how can I relate that over to money? But one of the things that she talked about was spending time with it and learning about it. And so all of a sudden, my brain went, whoa, 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 whoa. Hold the phone for a second. You're saying that when I'm reading those books about, investing, or, I'm reading right now, Smart Women Finish Rich. I think it's David Bach that writes that one. And I've read different books about money, like The Science of Getting Rich and different things, where, again, I would feel guilty if I was reading them during the day. And sometimes in the evenings, depending on the book, if it, like The Science of Getting Rich was different, but if it's anything that's about strategy, often I feel really down about it because it's strategy that I'm not able to implement at the moment because I'm birthing this new business. And there's a lot of money that's going into a variety of directions, just keeping me going. And so I feel down about it. And so all of a sudden, when Catherine Zankina said, one of the ways to improve your relationship with money is to learn about it, it was just enough of that shift from my brain to go, oh, so actually, rather than beating myself up over these strategies or tools that I either don't have time or don't have the resources right now to action, what if I looked at my reading this book as purely a labor of love? I am here meeting with money, wanting to improve my relationship, right? It's in a way, it's actually not that different from you going on a date with someone to learn more about them, but it feels different because you're not having a conversation, right? Maybe it's just me, but I'm sure that there's at least one of you listening to me that feels the same way. So I want to wrap up here with the idea that the only thing that has a hope of stopping you is you, and to remind you that it's the space between the actions where the doubt, the fear, and the self-sabotage sneak in. So I would encourage you to have a good look and really think about this for a little while about the idea of building a ladder. Are you focused on building a ladder? Have you declared what you want it to be? And by ladder, I mean that trajectory that you want to get to. So one of the actions that I took last week was literally I spent like 3-4 hours focusing out, planning out what I want to do for the last year. Now, I will say that sounds super high level and it sounds like it was super easy. It was not. It was a lot of wrestling with myself and a lot of like I'd get a couple things down like, okay, I know I want to do this, and then to break it down further I'm like, oh my god, like I'm not good enough and I can't do this and I don't know anything and I'm not going to do this right and I'm never going to get there and da 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 da. Like that's what my brain was doing. But I knew that if I wanted to get somewhere, if I want to finally achieve what has been in my mind, even though I've never defined it, then I need to define it. And I also have to give myself the grace and space to know I may not make it, or I may make it way before I think I'm going to get there. Or on the way, something may change, and that's okay. And so rather than being so afraid to build this ladder because I'm afraid that it's going to be in the wrong direction, what if I allow myself the grace to say, okay, I'm going to build in this direction. And if I need to, along the way, I could shift the ladder over a little bit. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But in the meantime, how amazing is this life that I could be creating? Right? Like, let's say, for example, that perhaps what my true calling in life is supposed to be like some kind of crazy motivational speaker that does like these super intuitive shows or something. I don't know. But because I don't know right now, and I'm so afraid to build something, even though right now, that top rung of my ladder is to build an $18 million company by 2027, which let me just say right now, putting 2027 on the calendar made me feel like I was in some weird sci-fi movie. I'm like, wait, we're in like 2027 already? What the heck? And so I just said, you know what? I need to just declare a rung and start moving in that direction. And on the way, I might find something different, and that's okay. But I'd rather find out on the way than just stay where I am and never get there. Right? So I would encourage you to take a look inside and think about, have you had the courage to declare a top rung of the ladder, a direction in which you want to go, and to really kind of, start asking yourself about what would that look like, and not to get stuck in the doubt. And let me just say, don't let anybody else talk you out of it. So if somebody comes to you and says, that's just so unrealistic, you'll never get there, or you need to dream bigger than that, you need to have bigger goals than that, don't let them take you off the path, because I spent 36 years doing that, friends. We don't all need to do that. The other thing, like I said, was beware of the stories where you're delaying your success with a made-up story, and pay attention to them, recognize them, and then my encouragement for you would be to adjust them right away. Like I said, I say it out loud, and then I adjust what I actually want to think around that thing. And the reason I say it out loud is not to reiterate it to myself, but I don't say it over and over and over again out loud, but I say it out loud once to go, oh, okay, I'm bringing recognition to it, shining a spotlight on it, as it were, and then I can adjust and go from there. Align yourself with powerful mentors. Find people who you want to emulate, who are achieving the success you want already. And finally, look at increasing your knowledge and think about doing that action as a high value investment. All right. So it's the space between the actions, guys, where the doubt, the fear, and the self-sabotage sneak in. Don't be afraid to take the big, massive action. I talk about taking inspired action all the time. And in the space between, know that you are still divinely protected in that space between, and do everything that you can to be aware of what's happening in that space between. Because otherwise, what's going to happen is that you're going to get to a point where you'll likely have a conversation similar to what I had with myself in the kitchen, saying, what the hell have I done? I've created something, but nothing as big as I could have, right? We all have incredible power inside of ourselves, and if we could just get out of our own freaking way, we could be really amazing people. So I believe that is true and possible for each and every one of us. So that's where I'm committing to moving now in my life, and I would encourage you to do the same. I trust that today's episode had some, I hope, powerful knowledge and information for you today, and I trust that you will receive it and it will land with you as it should. And I encourage you, if you are at the beginning of starting your business, I talk about the launch pad. I ran it as a challenge a few weeks ago, and I've actually turned it into free training that you can sign up for at any time. So go ahead and you can grab that free training at daretobegin.net/the launch pad. And I would encourage you, I'd love to hear from you. Please leave me a review on iTunes. And or take a screenshot of you listening to this episode, post it on the gram on your stories, and be sure to tag me in it as well. It's at I Dare to Begin. With that, friends, I wish you phenomenal last 7 days of September. And yeah, let's get this new year started. Bye for now. Are you tired of figuring it out all on your own? Of sitting in overwhelm, knowing that you're not moving forward, but having no idea where or how to start? Are you ready to learn effective, profit-supporting strategies for your business so that you can finally earn the money you desire and step into the freedom that you're working so hard to create? If so, I invite you to join me inside the Launchpad. You'll get instant access to free training designed to meet you where you are right now and propel you forward toward the dream that you hold in your mind. It's time to make a powerful move toward your future. Time to step up and serve the people who desperately need your help. Let's not keep them waiting any longer. Today is the day. Join the Launchpad now. Just go to daretobegin.net/the Launchpad and sign up. Your success is inevitable. Now, let's launch it.